Elena's hands trembled as she stood at the microphone, the crystal chandeliers of the hospital gala casting fractured light across her tear-stained face. 300 of Manhattan's elite stared at her in stunned silence. Somewhere in the crowd, Daniel Ashford smirked, waiting for her testimony to destroy his brother. And there, 10 feet away, his face carved from stone and devastation, stood Marcus, the man she'd been paid to betray, the man she'd fallen catastrophically in love with. 6 months ago, her voice cracked through the speakers, I was hired to seduce Marcus Ashford and prove he was heartless enough to steal an inheritance. Marcus's eyes closed. She watched something inside him break. I took Daniel Ashford's money because my daughter was dying, and I was desperate enough to destroy a good man to save her. The room erupted in gasps and whispers. Daniel's smirk faltered, but Elena couldn't stop now. She pulled the check from her purse, $100,000, the final payment, and tore it cleanly in half. I need to tell you all what I discovered instead, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. This story began 6 months earlier, in a hospital billing office that smelled of antiseptic and crushed dreams. Elena sat in the uncomfortable plastic chair, her daughter Sophia's medical file heavy in her lap. The billing coordinator's voice had become white noise, but certain phrases cut through like surgical blades. Experimental treatment, $200,000. Insurance denial is final. Without intervention, 6 months, maybe less. Sophia was 7 years old. She loved strawberry ice cream and terrible knock-knock jokes. Her heart was failing, and Elena had exactly $3,847 to her name. That night, Elena worked her shift at Joe's Diner with mechanical precision, smiling at customers while her mind calculated impossible math. She was refilling coffee when Daniel Ashford slid into the corner booth. She knew who he was. Immediately, she'd seen his face in society magazines, always in his older brother's shadow. Elena Vasquez, he said, and her blood went cold. I know about Sophia. I know about the experimental treatment she needs. I know you're out of options. She wanted to run. Instead, she set down the coffee pot with a shaking hand. What do you want? My brother Marcus stole my inheritance. My father's will left everything to him, because Marcus is the responsible one, the capable one. Daniel's smile was sharp as glass. But I know the truth. Marcus is a machine, incapable of real human connection. He uses charity and business success as a mask, but underneath, he's empty. Prove it, and I'll pay you $200,000. I'm not a spy. You're a mother. Daniel slid a contract across the table. Get hired as his maid. Document his cruelty. Show the court he's unfit to manage the family fortune. $100,000 now for Sophia's immediate treatment. $100,000 more when I win the case. He leaned forward. Your daughter needs you to be practical, not proud. Elena's hands moved before her conscience could stop them. She signed. The Ashford mansion rose against the Manhattan skyline like a monument to isolation, all glass and steel and cold modern lines. Elena stood in the foyer with her single suitcase, feeling like she'd entered a beautiful mausoleum. Marcus Ashford barely glanced up when the head of staff introduced her. He sat behind a laptop in his study, surrounded by screens and reports, his handsome face drawn with exhaustion. Keep the West Wing clean. Don't touch my office without asking. Don't speak unless spoken to. His voice was flat, businesslike, empty of warmth. He looked back at his screen. She'd been dismissed. That night, Elena watched him work until 3 a.m. from her small room overlooking the study. He never moved except to type, never paused except to drink cold coffee. Daniel was right. This man was a machine. She texted Daniel. Day 1. He's exactly what you said. Heartless. The weeks blurred together. Elena cleaned immaculate rooms that no one used. She documented everything, his 12-hour workdays, his curt responses to staff, his mechanical routine. She photographed his expensive suits and wine collection. She recorded him on conference calls, speaking in clipped tones about quarterly earnings and strategic acquisitions. But then came the night that changed everything. Elena found Marcus standing motionless in front of a door in the East Wing, the only room she'd been explicitly forbidden to enter. His hand rested on the doorknob but didn't turn it. In the dim hallway light, she saw his face unguarded for the first time. Raw anguish carved lines around his eyes. His breath came shallow and painful. When he noticed her watching, his mask slammed back into place. He walked past without a word, but Elena stood frozen in the hallway, her heart pounding. Daniel's version of Marcus, the cruel, empty man, didn't feel pain like that. The next day, while cleaning his study, Elena found architectural plans rolled up behind his desk. The Lily Ashford Children's Heart Center. Lily, the name on that locked door. Her fingers trembled as she searched online. Lily Ashford, beloved wife of Marcus Ashford, passed away 3 years ago after a sudden illness, survived by her husband, services private. Suddenly, his emptiness made devastating sense. He wasn't cruel. He was hollowed out by grief. Elena called Daniel, her voice uncertain. "Did you know about his wife?" "Grief doesn't excuse theft, Elena. Stay focused. I need more evidence." But focus became impossible 2 weeks later when Sophia's condition deteriorated. Elena got the call at midnight. Sophia had collapsed at her grandmother's apartment. She was stable, but barely. Elena broke down in the mansion's kitchen at 2 a.m, surrounded by marble countertops and stainless steel, sobbing into her hands. "What's wrong?" She jerked up to find Marcus in the doorway, still dressed from his day, his laptop under his arm. For the first time, he was really looking at her, not through her, not past her, but at her. "I'm sorry," she gasped. "I didn't mean to disturb you. My daughter, she—" The words tumbled out before she could stop them. The heart condition, the failed treatment, the time running out. Marcus's entire demeanor shifted. He set down his laptop and sat across from her at the kitchen island, and for 30 minutes he asked careful questions about Sophia's diagnosis, her doctors, her symptoms. He listened with intense focus, and Elena realized this was the first real conversation they'd ever had. The next morning, Marcus appeared with a list of names. 3 pediatric cardiologists, the best in the country. I've made calls. They'll see Sophia next week. His voice was still measured, but something had softened around his eyes. No promises, but they should at least review her case. Elena stared at the paper, tears blurring her vision. "I can't afford. Consider it a benefit of employment." He turned to leave, then paused. "My wife Lily died because I was too focused on work to notice she was sick. By the time I paid attention, it was too late. I won't make that mistake again, even for a stranger's child." He walked away, leaving Elena holding the list, her heart fracturing with guilt. The recordings she sent Daniel after that began to change. Marcus talking about Lily, his voice breaking. Marcus explaining how he was building the hospital because he couldn't save her, but maybe he could save someone else. Marcus asking about Sophia's favorite foods, her hobbies, promising to have the chef make her cookies for her next visit. Daniel's texts became insistent. "This isn't what I'm paying for. I need evidence of cruelty, not charity." But Elena couldn't stop. She and Marcus began talking late at night, the only time he emerged from his work. He told her about meeting Lily in college, how she'd made him laugh, how after she died, he threw himself into business, because stopping meant feeling the loss. Elena shared stories about Sophia's bravery, her terrible jokes, her stubborn hope. One night, Marcus actually smiled, genuinely smiled at a story about Sophia insisting she could cure herself with positive thinking and chocolate milk. "She sounds remarkable," he said softly. "Like her mother." Elena's breath caught. She was recording this conversation on her phone in her pocket, and the device suddenly felt like a weapon pressed against her own heart. 3 months in, Marcus invited her to see the hospital construction site. They stood among steel beams and concrete at sunset, hard hats on their heads, and Marcus pointed out where the cardiac wing would be. Lily would have loved this. She always said I needed to build things that mattered, not just things that made money. You're building something beautiful, Elena said, meaning it completely. Marcus turned to her, and she saw something new in his face, tentative hope, careful warmth. You've made this house feel less empty. I didn't think that was possible anymore. He kissed her, gentle and desperate and real. Elena kissed him back, and in that moment, she forgot about Daniel, forgot about the money, forgot about everything except the way Marcus held her like she was precious. That night, she tried to delete all the recordings. She opened the files, her finger hovering over the delete button, but she couldn't do it. Sophia's next round of treatments cost $40,000. The money Marcus had provided covered the consultations, but not the full experimental protocol. She needed Daniel's payment. She hated herself, but she kept the recordings. Over the next 2 months, Elena and Marcus grew closer. He started leaving work earlier. He smiled more. He joined her and Sophia for dinner when the little girl visited, teaching Sophia card tricks and listening to her chatter about school. Elena watched him transform from a machine back into a man, and she fell hopelessly, completely in love. She stopped responding to Daniel's messages. She decided she would find another way to save Sophia. She would confess everything to Marcus. She would beg his forgiveness and hope that what they'd built together was real enough to survive the truth. She planned to tell him on a Friday evening. She'd rehearsed the words 100 times. But Thursday afternoon, she came home to find Marcus in his study, her phone in his hand, the one she'd thought she lost in the garden the day before. His face was ashen on his computer screen, her recordings, her text messages to Daniel, photographs of their signed contract. I found it in the garden, Marcus said, his voice eerily quiet. I was going to surprise you, charge it, return it. He looked up at her, and the betrayal in his eyes was physically painful. Surprise! Elena's world shattered. Marcus, please let me explain. Explain what? His calm was worse than rage. Explain that everything was a lie? That you were paid to seduce me? That every conversation we had, you were gathering evidence for my brother? He clicked play on one of the recordings. His own voice filled the room, talking about Lily with raw vulnerability. Then Elena's voice. Got it. This is perfect. Daniel will love this. That was before Elena choked on the words. Before you what? Before you fell in love with me? His laugh was bitter, hollow. How much did Daniel pay you, Elena? What was I worth? What was this worth? He gestured between them. It became real, she sobbed. Everything I feel for you is real. I was going to tell you everything, I swear. Get out. The words were flat, final. Pack your things. I'll have your final paycheck sent. Marcus, Sophia needs... Don't. He held up a hand. Wouldn't even look at her. Don't you dare use your daughter to manipulate me now. I've already arranged for her full treatment protocol. I did that because of who I thought you were. That doesn't change. But we're done. He turned his back on her. I can't even look at you. The next 3 months were a special kind of hell. Elena moved back to her tiny apartment. She went to Sophia's appointments at the hospital. Marcus's team had arranged everything, paid for everything, but Marcus himself never appeared. She saw him only once, from a distance, walking through the hospital lobby in a suit. He looked worse than when she'd first met him, hollow-eyed, mechanical, empty. She destroyed him twice. Once when Lily died. Once when she betrayed him. Daniel called repeatedly, furious that she'd stopped cooperating. He threatened to sue her for breach of contract. Elena didn't care. She'd lost the only thing that mattered. Then came the invitation to the hospital gala, not for her, but she saw it mentioned in the newspaper. The grand opening of the Lily Ashford Children's Heart Center. Daniel would be there. His legal battle with Marcus was still ongoing. Elena made a decision. She bought a simple black dress from a thrift store and crashed the gala. Security tried to stop her at the door, but she pushed past them into the crystalline ballroom. Marcus stood across the room in a tuxedo, looking devastatingly handsome and utterly broken. Their eyes met. She watched pain and something else, something that might have been longing, flash across his face. Daniel saw his opportunity. He grabbed a microphone from the stage. Everyone should know the truth about Marcus Ashford and his so-called charity. Elena intercepted him, taking the microphone from his hands. Security approached, but Marcus held up a hand, stopping them. He stared at Elena with an expression she couldn't read. And that's when she began her confession. Everything. The contract, the money, the recordings, her desperation, her daughter's illness, her inexcusable choices. She held nothing back. And then I fell in love with him, she said, her voice breaking as she looked directly at Marcus. I fell in love with the man who builds hospitals in his dead wife's memory, who remembers how his staff take their coffee, who saved my daughter's life, even after he discovered I'd betrayed him. The crowd was silent. Marcus Ashford is the best man I've ever known, and I destroyed him. Tears streamed down her face. I'm sorry. I wasn't brave enough to tell you first. I'm sorry. I let you find out the way you did. You deserved so much better than me. She set down the microphone and walked toward the exit, not running this time, just walking with her head held high through her shame. Elena, wait. Marcus's voice stopped her at the doorway. She turned slowly. He stood in the center of the ballroom, every eye on him. You're right. I deserved better. His voice carried across the silent room. I deserved honesty from the beginning. I deserved trust. Elena nodded, fresh tears falling. I know. But I've been thinking about something these past months. He took a step toward her. About truth and lies, and which one matters more in the end. You lied about why you came into my life. But everything that happened after, was that a lie? No, she whispered. Never. The way you listened when I talked about Lily. The way you made me laugh again. The way you looked at me like I was human, not just a machine. Was that part of the plan? No. God, no, Marcus. I fell in love with you, and that was never supposed to happen. He was closer now, close enough that she could see the exhaustion in his eyes, but also something else. Something that looked like hope fighting through pain. My therapist asked me what I wanted, he said quietly. If I could have anything. I told her I wanted to stop hurting. She said that wasn't possible, losing Lily would always hurt. But I could choose whether to let the hurt close me off forever or open me up to the possibility of loving again, even if it meant risking more pain. Elena's breath hitched. What are you saying? I'm saying I've been miserable without you. I'm saying that what you did was unforgivable, and I'm saying I want to try forgiving you anyway. His voice cracked. I'm saying that I love you, Elena, and I don't know how to stop, and I don't think I want to. She couldn't breathe. You can't just forgive me. I betrayed you. I recorded your most vulnerable moments. You tore up Daniel's check. He gestured to the pieces still on the floor. You confessed everything when you could have lied. You put my well-being above your daughter's treatment money. That took courage I'm not sure I could have managed. It's not enough. Maybe not. But it's a start. He reached out, his hand trembling slightly, and touched her face. Can we start over? Not pretending the past didn't happen, but building something real from the wreckage? Elena leaned into his touch, her whole body shaking with relief and disbelief and overwhelming love. I don't deserve you. Probably not. He smiled, that real smile she'd fallen in love with. But I'm choosing you anyway. Choose me back. She kissed him, and this time there were no lies between them. Just truth and pain and hope tangled together. The ballroom erupted in applause, but Elena barely heard it. When they finally broke apart, Marcus kept his forehead pressed to hers. "This won't be easy," he murmured. "Trust takes time to rebuild." "I know, and I'm still in therapy. And you should probably be too." "I know. And we're taking this slowly. Dating properly this time. With honesty." Elena laughed through her tears. "I'd like that." "Good." He pulled back to look at her, his eyes bright with something she thought she'd destroyed forever. "Because I plan on loving you for a very long time, Elena Vasquez. I'm not giving up on us." 6 months later, they stood together in the cardiac wing of the Lily Ashford Children's Heart Center. Sophia ran ahead of them, healthy and glowing, excited to see the playroom Marcus had designed specifically with her input. Elena wore a simple engagement ring, nothing ostentatious, just a promise made real. Marcus took her hand. "Lily would have liked you, you know. She always said I needed someone who'd challenge me, who'd break through my walls. I broke more than your walls," Elena said softly. "And then you helped me build something better." He kissed her temple. "That's what love is, isn't it? Breaking and rebuilding. Together." Elena watched Sophia laugh with other children, alive because of Marcus's generosity, loved because of his capacity for forgiveness. She'd come into his life as a spy, as a betrayer, as someone willing to destroy him for money. She'd stayed because she discovered something worth more than any payment, a love real enough to survive the truth, strong enough to rebuild from ashes, brave enough to forgive the unforgivable. "Thank you," she whispered to Marcus. "For what?" "For giving me a second chance. For choosing love over fear." He pulled her close, and she felt his smile against her hair. "We chose each other. That's all that matters now." And in the children's laughter, echoing through the hospital Lily had inspired and Elena had nearly destroyed, they found their beginning, messy and imperfect and absolutely real. If you enjoyed this story, then you're exactly where you need to be. This channel is filled with billionaire romance stories that'll sweep you into private jets, charity galas, and those vulnerable 3 a.m. conversations where the walls finally come down. Your support is what keeps me bringing these stories to life, and honestly, it means everything. So, if you're craving more stories of powerful men brought to their knees by love, of ordinary women discovering they're worth more than any fortune, hit that subscribe button. Ring the bell because, trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. If this story made your heart race or gave you those butterflies, show it some love with a like. And if you know someone who's obsessed with billionaire romance, who dreams in champagne and first-class flights, share this with them. These stories are too good to keep to yourself. Drop a comment and tell me, are you Team Love Conquers All or Team Make Him Work for It? I read every single one, and your reactions fuel the next story. Another billionaire, another impossible love story, another reason to believe that sometimes the richest thing you can have is someone who sees the real you. Until then, keep dreaming big.